Hey everyone, I'm very excited. I'm here with Adam Gainsburg, and he's a UAC speaker. Hey Adam.
Hi Nadia, great to be with you.
He is an exciting astrologer. He's an author, he's a teacher, he's a counselor astrologer. His soul sign astrology illuminates the sentient interface of astrology and astronomy through his private practice and leading edge classes. He emphasizes direct experience of our natal Sky Plus chart to make astrology intimately accessible and profoundly liberating. He's authored 4 books, the latest of which, The Light of Venus, delivers a complete system of delineating the 13 Venus phases. He also hosts monthly podcasts and owns Intrepid Software. Adam, you're going to be speaking on the heart of Mars, introducing the Mars phases at UAC on Friday, May 25th at 2:30 p.m. And everybody who, if you don't know what UAC is, it's United Astrology Conference, and you can go to uacastrology.com and register for the conference, come to Chicago and hear Adam speak. He is a wealth of knowledge. Adam, can you give us a little preview of that lecture?
Yeah, so the heart of Mars, the Mars phases, is a body of work that I've been working on as long as I've been working on the Venus phases, and I came out with the Venus phase book, The Light of Venus, as you mentioned, the last UAC, 2012. I'm not promising I'm coming out with another book by May. However, I do feel that in the future I will be coming out with the companion, the Mars companion book to the Venus. So what this essentially is, Nadia, is a book on the Mars-Sun relationship. Just like we have the Moon-Sun relationship, and we just call them the moon phases.
This is the
Mars-Sun relationship. So it's technically called the synodic or the heliacal phases of Mars, and it is based on the physics and physical relationship between between Mars, the Sun, and Earth for one entire cycle.
I love that. I love that you mentioned Earth in there, because we do astrology and we would never mention Earth. The Earth is so important.
It's so, in fact, speaking of that, Nadia, this cycle of Mars, these phases, by the way, they work natally, they work by secondary or tertiary progressions. You can use them for even an organization. Like, you know, for example, when a secondary progressed moon changes sign or changes the phase of that moon, it's just as powerful there as when Mars changes phases, or Venus or Mercury changes its progressed phase. So when you mention about the Earth, this is so important, Nadia. My love of the sky has really informed a bulk of the last 5 or 6 years of my output in astrology. So much so that, you know how like in the chart, we have the basics when we're learning astrology. What do signs mean? Houses, aspects, aspect patterns, midpoints, dignities. Well, that's all chart-based information. There is an equal volume of physical sky-based information that has so much to do with the Earth. So one of these, I call them sky factors. One of the sky factors is something called Earth proximity. And what that simply means is how far is the planet, when you're looking at the round chart, how far is the planet from the Earth? Now, it's not related to you can't get it from the chart unless you know our solar system and the concentric orbits and the movements of the planets around the sun. But with a little bit of study, you can easily see, wow, look at that. I was born with Mercury very far from the Earth, but I was born with Jupiter very close to the Earth. And that effect, as you taught and spoken about for, I think, at least 2 years now, Nadia, or more in astrology, the gravitational waves when a planet is closest to the Earth is what I call the Earth proximity effect. And it plays a huge factor in the strength or weakness of a planet on the chart.
Wow, that's amazing. It's amazing. It's about time we actually learn about it. It's
I agree.
Time. Yes, it's like gives me chills just to hear you speak.
Another one is brightness. it's a little bit shocking still to me after all these years that when we look at a chart, we don't consider if the planet was simply visible in the sky at the moment of question, or the planet was completely invisible, not visible in all 24 hours. So that's a second. Speed, just simple speed. Was the planet relatively slow in our experience, or was it relatively fast? The third is where did the planet appear if it's visible? For example, is it a morning star planet? Or in the Mars cycle, the morning star Mars is a very, very different Mars than an evening star Mars. And the basic difference there is Mars earlier or later in the zodiac than the sun? And that will tell you morning or evening star Mars. Now, I have a lot of literature about what each one is, what each one means. It's more like saying on the round chart wheel, a planet is in the left hemisphere or the right hemisphere. It's a big statement of description of Mars. It's not very, very specific, but we get the specifics from the speed, the brightness, the Earth proximity, and also then latitude or declination. That also plays in. So Nadia, I just want to say here that this phases of Mars lecture I'm going to do I'm going to be introducing the 13 phases, but the phases are essentially based on these 4 or 5 factors that undulate, that one really exaggerates the effect of Mars and then wanes, and then another one comes up and then that wanes, and then these two come together and then they wane. So the phases of Mars are more like a tactile. It's more like a sensed feeling in the body than it is an astrologically intellectualized understanding of something.
Interesting. Yes, this is so amazing. I'm so looking forward to your lecture. The little that I know about phases of Mars is just from my own experience and looking at life of the people close to me. What happens when Mars retrogrades?
Yes.
What happens when Mars stationary? One tangible example is one of the astrologers said many years ago, if somebody starts a lawsuit while Mars is retrograding, they're gonna lose that one. But if you're a defendant, you're gonna win that one. So, this is brilliant. It actually literally recently played out so powerfully in the life of my son. Somebody sued him over nothing, of a coffee spill. That was a year ago. Once that happened and I heard about it, and I knew that I was gonna have to step in and help him through the legal process, I quickly looked up what happening with Mars, and I see, it happened while Mars was retrograding, and my son is a defendant. I knew right away we're gonna win, we're gonna dismiss this case, piece of cake.
Oh,
it just took a long time. We went through the entire Mars, coming from retrograde, stationary, and back to going direct.
Yes.
Eventually, when Mercury was retrograding a year later, that's when we finally got our dismissal. But I knew that all along right away.
Wow, that's fantastic. That's a perfect example of what I always say, both the inner planets, Mercury and Venus, and the outer visibles, Mars, Jupiter, and Saturn. When all 5 of those planets are retrograde, they are closer to the Earth than at any other time in their orbit.
And it's very powerful. Yes, Mars is very powerful when it's retrograding.
Yes, exactly. And I don't know, many people don't know this, but Mars retrograde is the longest retrograde period of all the visible planets. It takes Mars nearly double the amount of time to go through one whole cycle, and therefore his retrograde period is nearly double, or about 75% longer than even Jupiter or Saturn's, whose cycle is give or take a year. Mars's cycle sometimes is 26 months. So we have this influence of Mars playing itself out almost double the amount of time that the quote bigger gas giants, Jupiter, Saturn, have on us. Mars actually is certainly is closer to us, but it's astrological, and it's, as you've taught a lot, its gravitational effect on us, especially when retrograde and closest to the Earth, is the strongest of any planet, because it's simply every day it's there closest, influencing the gravity around us.
We're going to talk more about physics of that particular influence in our next video.
Right.
But it's like so much to talk about it. My mind exploded. Right now, I would like to look at your other lecture that is presenting on Monday, May 28th. It's called The Root of We, Full and Whole Relationships.
Yes.
And that's another subject that near and dear to me, as I don't know if you know, one of the things that I do, I'm a private upscale matchmaker.
Ah.
Professional matchmaker. That's another. I do love coaching, astrology-based love coaching, and just regular love coaching and matchmaking for the past 8 years. So that's something that I really, really love to talk to you about. So give us a little teaser of what that is all about.
This lecture comes from all my work with Venus on the chart and the phase. Mars on the chart and the phase. These are like related pairs of octaves. This is not the same as octaves like Venus and Neptune, Mars, and Pluto. This is the octave of Venus and Mars with its own, what I call its dharma. So we have natal Mars, we have natal Venus, but we also have a dharmic Venus and a dharmic Mars. And what those talk about, and this comes directly out of the phase work, is what am I meant to contribute? Not even consciously. I don't have to put extra effort in, but when I'm really embodying my natal whatever planet, what starts to become possible for others? How do I start to contribute something as a kind of longer term life contribution to others? How am I making things easier for others so they don't have to suffer as much? How am I kind of healing something, let's say through my family, that my family members don't have to work as hard to work on in themselves? So this is really where this relationship comes from, this idea of natal Mars, natal Venus, joining them here, and then natal Mars and natal Venus joining them in the phase. And what you get is, you get this, what I have, the word is multivalent, multiple frequencies at the same time operating to form a union, to form what is known in alchemy and tantra as the hieros gamos, the holy union of opposites. This is not just, learning to make peace with your enemies. It's much deeper and more profound than that. This is finding the place where inside of ourselves we're conflicted, and then learning through love and acceptance and true forgiveness to do that in ourselves. And then we are able to start attracting better partners, business partners, friends partners, lovers, whatever, together. So that's really what the full and whole relationship, again, the lecture is called The Root of We. What does it really mean to be a we, not just me, but us together in a whole and full way?
Interesting. So it's not just, women are from Venus, men are from Mars.
No.
Okay, so it's a higher level of Venus and Mars energies, much higher level. You're talking right now about thinking of humanity, what we as a couple can do for other people, rather than what we as a couple can resolve between ourselves.
That's right.
So
That's right.
Higher level of functioning as a couple.
That's right.
Wow.
And you know what? Yes, exactly. That's so well put, Nadia. I mean, I rarely get to talk to someone who's really gets it in this way.
Oh, thank you.
Let me share with you, from all the years of counseling, using this system, especially with couples, when I'm working with, let's say I'm working with him and her, or her and her, or him and him, I'm working with both partners individually and then the couple together. What I have learned is there are some consistent big challenges to this, to actualizing this in our lives. Number one, a lot of times we're not really willing, a lot of us aren't willing initially to be really more honest with ourselves. We like to stay in the way that we think about things. We're not willing to kind of soften the certainty of our minds to allow more of our truth to permeate and to inform us. So that's one.
That's the ego functioning.
That's the ego function, exactly. So that's one. The other thing is the other challenge that I find is, especially when we're in relationship with other people, or we're in a challenging relationship with someone else, being willing to put down willingly not because we're forced to, but we consciously choose to put down what we are perceiving as our requirements for relationship, and and put it down and consider and open to something different from the person. So more flexibility, I guess, is what I'm saying.
Exactly. When I coach also couples and individuals about relationships, and usually I work with people who literally struggling with coupling up. They're singles, they're perpetual singles, they're struggling with coupling up, is because some of the things you're saying, they have certain requirements, and it's very hard for them step outside that box.
Yes.
At some point when I get to teach them the types of the relationships, I get to the point that, you enter into a first level of relationship where all you do is have a good time together.
Mm-hmm.
And you only relate to each other on that good time level.
Right.
Dating. Yes. Next stage would be okay, you find in a little bit of difference between yourselves. You like each other genuinely, but you start finding boundaries or differences, and then you enter into a stage of working them out.
Mm-hmm.
But it's still, you focused on each other.
Yes.
And then the next level from that is when you already worked out that relationship, and you can set out on having mutual project when you together going in a certain direction.
Together.
Together. It could be you have a child together. It could be you enter into, besides personal business relationship together, you move in together into a certain direction with a certain common goal. Once you accomplish that goal, a lot of times couples don't go beyond that. They accomplish that goal and they split up. Say
Right.
they have a child, they raise a child, and after that they get divorced. Have no other higher goal in mind for their relationship.
Yes, that's right.
But certain couples actually do. After they accomplish that goal, or even in parallel to that, something higher level starts opening up when they actually together can help other people.
Yes.
Mission, not just accomplish their mutual goal to raise a child or build a home or whatever, make money,
right.
But they can help other people with whatever they service society with helping them accomplishing their goals together. Like they, as a couple, they're on a mission. They don't need to resolve their problems anymore. They help other people.
Beautiful. That's what I call a dharmic relationship. Exactly.
Right. And then you jump in straight to that level. You all the levels beyond, jumping right there. That's beautiful thing. And I think people, if they understand that concept, they can actually enter into relationship not just on the first level.
Mm-hmm.
They're advanced as individuals. They can enter a relationship immediately on all the levels. Immediately having that in mind.
Yes. And I think what you just said is key. They need to start, or the relationship with the other person, whenever it begins, having already met some of their own shadow, having already dealt with, knowing where their weak spots are, knowing where their strong parts are, somewhat conscious already, because to enter into a relationship and ask that of ourselves before we've met like basic issues, like anything left over from mom and dad when we were growing up,
right.
Any traumas that happen, if that's not resolved to some degree, then whenever we start to get raised higher, that stuff is going to be pulled up to the surface and we're going to have to deal with it right then. And a lot of times relationships end because the people aren't willing to put their in dealing with their personal issues, they're not willing to keep their personal issues in the context of this is just a step in that direction to that higher union.
Exactly. So if people get a little bit on advanced level individually, it's going to be easier for them in a relationship to quickly go through these stages and get to the stage number 4 and number 5 and become, the power couple that actually helps other beings.
Yes.
And
that's right. I'm just remembering there were probably 3 to 5 couples in the past who, in helping others, once they had reached there, they moved more into a metaphysical level. They weren't so interested in helping. This is going to sound esoteric, but not so much physical, but they were working with nature and nature energies and elements and animal energies and larger non-physical other forms of life, that the two of them together in that higher form of their relationship, they were so impassioned by.
Right. That's beautiful. Yeah, that's beautiful.
So it can take any form.
Yes, that is fascinating. I'm
Yeah.
really looking forward attending your lectures. They're so interesting.
Thank you.
And everyone, this is amazing. You don't want to miss it. You don't want to miss this gentleman at the conference. You introduce yourself to him, take pictures with him, come to his lecture. Adam, thank you so much for this wonderful interview. I'm looking forward to seeing you in person at the conference, again, shaking your hand and attending your lectures.
Thank you very much, Nadia.